Hey, yo, quit playing.
Hey!
Quit playing yourself.
Radio UTD.
Good morning. Welcome to the Mercury Morning News. My name's Ben. I'm the opinion editor at the Mercury, and today, as most times, pretty much every time, I'm sitting here with Amanda, the station manager at Radio UTD. How's it going, Amanda?
It's going good, Ben.
It's
We've
going
got
good.
some nice interviews lined up for this week.
Yeah. Today we're gonna be talking to some writers about some new biotech innovations, some COVID statistics from the past year as the vaccine is coming up, and
Interview part 2 with Matt Duvall, also known as Matthew Devil. Yes.
Nice. Today we're gonna be talking to Sophia Bevel about brand new 3D printed, basically stand, a cup holder in a sense, and a new sepsis detector. How are you doing, Sophia?
Good. How are you guys?
Doing great. As you can clearly see, we're doing amazing. But now let's start with the brand new 3D printed, not a cup holder, the probe holder for the ultrasound. What's it all about? Let us in on it.
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, thanks for having me on. I'm really excited to talk about these two stories because you're totally right. The graduate students at UTD are building some incredible biotech devices, and this one is really interesting because it's in collaboration with a physician from UT Southwestern. His name is Dr. Carlos Trigo, and basically through this UT Design Senior Capstone Committee, a bunch of these senior graduate students decided that, hey, we want to work with UT Southwestern to somehow improve something in the emergency department. So Dr. Trigo came up with this relatively simple yet so effective of an idea. And basically, the way it kind of works out is that whenever a doctor is performing an ultrasound, two medical professionals need to be in the room for two reasons. So the first reason is that you need a physician that actually conducts the procedure, the actual ultrasound. But in order to keep the actual ultrasound probe sterile, you need typically a nurse to be there. And as soon as the procedure is over, the nurse will hold the ultrasound probe and the physician then covers it with some type of sterile wrapping or tarp. Now, Dr. Trigo noticed that during COVID, when he was always on call and getting really burnt out, he said, hey, we need to find a way for these nurses to not have to be in the room. Why are we using two medical professionals when we really could use one for somebody to just hold a probe? So all the UT design students who worked on this came up with the idea of, hey, you know what? We really kind of just need this glorified cup holder-esque thing. And they 3D printed a bunch of designs. And although it got delayed during COVID, they ended up finishing around this time, a couple months prior. And basically, there's now a sort of cup holder for the ultrasound probe. So, for example, just to play this out again, if the physician is conducting the ultrasound on a patient, no longer is a nurse needed to hold that sterile probe, and instead the nurse can go help somebody else. And especially during COVID, this was so helpful because the hospital was getting so many new patients, COVID patients every day, and there was no way to conduct an ultrasound with two people effectively. So that's kind of the gist of it.
All right. Now, I think the real question is, why Why wasn't this a thing before? How long was it standard operating procedure for there just to be two people? One's just a probe holder and they're just chilling there.
Exactly. That's a great question. I couldn't tell you. I mean, I guess that at the moment, when the last time I spoke to Dr. Trico, he actually said that they're trying to sell this now because this is such a simple idea and he's not 100% sure how he couldn't have, or somebody else couldn't have noticed before. But the fact that a nurse is just standing there holding the probe, like I'm sure it was like, that's a great service, I guess, but I feel like their service would be better used in actually being with a patient that may need them like urgently. And instead, so many ultrasound procedures just get delayed and delayed because you don't have two medical professionals ready at once to conduct this procedure. So that's a great question. I really don't know, but it was a pretty miraculous thing, and they're hoping to sell it soon.
Yeah, it's so simple.
Exactly.
Yet so efficient. And I think it probably became like looking for more ways like, okay, how can we make X and X efficient because of the frequency of COVID patients we've seen this past year? Because I'd assume it's just really easy to get into the pattern of we've always done it this way and not really thinking on how you can improve it until you're pushed into a situation like this.
Exactly. And Dr. Trigo at the time was a resident. So as a resident, he was saying, you are up so often that you're kind of trying to look for the easiest ways to do something. And he said, well, I mean, I think he was just saying that sometimes because of pressures of a situation, you're kind of forced to be creative, which I thought was pretty cool because in that situation where you have so many patients coming in, how do you conduct this procedure effectively in a sterile way, but also not take away a nurse from somebody else who might need it?
Right. Yeah. And you said this was developed by UT design students. Does that mean like ATEC, or is there like a design club on campus?
No. There's a UT design. It's like a capstone program.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Nice.
So, but honestly, like, dang, they really got to make their capstone just like, hey guys, what if we just had a holder on the machine? And you know what? Props to them. They finally did it. Like, the designers of those The designers of those like beer hats, they're just cackling in their sleep. They're just rolling in their graves like, man, these guys didn't even realize you just slap it wherever.
Exactly. And I don't know, it's hilarious at one point, but it's also like, wow. Like, I think some of the best ideas are so simple. And it's like, I don't know how anybody could have.
Is it not? Has nobody else had this? Like,
I mean,
do other machines not have a holder for the probe? And where do you put the probe, right? Where do you put it whenever you're not using it?
There's so for example, the way I understood it from Dr. Trigo, he said the nurse is going to stand there, is going to take out the ultrasound probe from like one part of the machine. But the issue is, I think you can't put it in the same place because now it's touched the patient. And so what they kind of did is that they built the UTD students, they actually, in addition to the cup holder, they kind of lengthened like the neck of the ultrasound probe. And basically that way there's a sterile portion and an unsterile portion clearly defined. And that way you can bend the ultrasound probe to not touch the cup holder either. So of course, like during COVID, everything was being wiped all the time. But in a situation that, a non-COVID situation, you don't need to continuously wipe down the holder. Instead, you can just bend the neck. And so I think that at UT Southwestern's emergency department, they don't have ultrasounds that have that capability. And in terms of like other hospitals having it, I haven't heard of any, but this like project won an incredible award. So I'm thinking that it might have been pretty original for the most part.
That's crazy.
Right?
That's wild. Okay. Wow. Yeah, man. Hey, look. It's props to them. We've got the new technology, the new old technology of holding things. But to be fair, they did have to have the sterile part. That makes sense.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's like an actual design constraint. Yeah, all right, understandable.
Don't ever play yourself. Don't ever play yourself. Don't ever play yourself. Congratulations, you played yourself.
I am DJ Aggressive Love, and you are listening to Radio UTD. Radio UTD. Quit playing yourself.
So your next story, the assessing sepsis successfully. This one kind of sparked my interest because I'm taking medical terminology this semester, and I see that I see that word sepsis. I'm trying to cut it up into word parts. For our listeners, can you kind of explain what sepsis is?
Totally. So sepsis is, well, in, kind of a interesting way of saying it, is a silent killer in terms of how it affects the body. So sepsis is a condition that is marked by something called biomarkers. And just to break that down, it's basically these molecules that your body will release whenever you're actually undergoing sepsis. And so sepsis causes organ damage. And the way that Umbilica Thonik, who is the PhD candidate that worked on this project, the way she described it is basically saying like, hey, whenever you're undergoing sepsis, your organs literally start to shut down one by one by one. And the issue with detecting sepsis is that doctors don't have a very rapid way to test it. And because of that, patients often die because of it. And sometimes doctors are kind of in awe about like, wait, was that a heart attack? What just happened, right? But instead, it's sepsis that's actually going to organ and just shutting it down. Now, the cool thing about this type of sensor that this PhD candidate made is that those specific biomarkers, the molecules that your body releases when you're undergoing sepsis, is pretty unique to sepsis. So if there was a way to kind of detect it and say, hey, these are different types of signals that are being released, and that is indication of sepsis, now doctors can figure that out in about 15 to 20 minutes instead of having a patient, die on their hands and say, hey, what just happened? So it's this really cool, rapid way of saying, hey, we think we see a flag here that is telling us that sepsis might be active. Let's change the way we are diagnosing this patient and give appropriate medication.
That's crazy.
Right? It's so cool.
So if the sepsis part or molecules are unique to sepsis,
yes,
then why wasn't this a thing before? I guess it seems like that seems like a pretty obvious line of questioning.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
We've got this disease. Is there anything unique about it?
Right. No, that's a great question. And I think that while people have noticed that, hey, like there's actually something super special to this specific type of condition, what happened, or from the research that I did, there's probably so much more to do, but from the research I did, it sounds like there are methods of detecting sepsis, but they take so long to actually detect those specific biomarkers, those signals that your body is giving, to the point where it almost makes sense for a doctor at the time this patient comes into the hospital, at that specific moment, they just go to whatever procedure seems to be best. And while, like, of course, we can argue that, hey, like, as a doctor, the point is not only to alleviate pain, of course, but also to make sure that they're diagnosing correctly. Are the medications actually what this patient needs? But the reason this sensor is so incredible is because it will actually give that information faster. And when a patient is coming to you in pain, rapid testing is almost a must. So that's kind of how it'll be helpful, especially at home, in the hospital, indoor facilities, all of that.
So what makes it more rapid, I guess?
Yeah, so in part, the actual sensor is put onto this different type of this hardware, and basically it's connected via Bluetooth. And while this hasn't been fully completed, Umbilica Thonik, the student that worked on it, basically said that, hey, our goal is to develop an app where you can put just a small drop of the patient's blood and detect that, hey, these are the biomarkers, the molecules that are being released. And that's kind of how it would be very, very quick. Within 10 to 15 minutes, you'd get it on an app in your phone. And basically, I believe it's around 80% accurate at the moment. And going forward, actually, Umbilica said that, hey, what we want to do is widen the number and the characterization of these biomarkers, because it's not just releasing one, it's releasing multiple. So what they're trying to do now is be like, hey, we want to try to detect all of them. That way, if a doctor is in this situation, puts a bit of blood plasma on the sensor on their phone via Bluetooth, they'd be able to say, hey, 10 out of the however many biomarkers that are related to sepsis are being shown. Let's adjust course and go towards a different medication.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. The cartridge like image that you have for the piece also looked pretty interesting, a little bit futuristic.
Yeah, like, for sure.
Really speak in that biotech aesthetic.
Exactly.
So I don't believe we mentioned this at the beginning, but it can be shown very much that you are passionate about these topics.
Right.
Can you talk about like your kind of why, I guess, history with the Mercury / your kind of trajectory as a UTD student and why these topics kind of sparked your interest so much?
Yeah, totally. So just for background, I'm a neuroscience major and I'm a junior, and I've been at the Mercury since my freshman year, but I took a break this past semester to finish my MCAT, and I finished on January 25th, and now I'm back. So that's kind of the history. But for more of a personal note, I've always been interested in two things, so science and writing. And usually, in the beginning, when I first started, like as a freshman, I was like, I really don't know how these two things will go together. And the Mercury gave me this niche that I am absolutely in love with. And kind of the reason why I love writing research articles in particular, or talking about the research that's happening on campus, is because I feel like whenever I read like a scientific paper, I understand maybe 20% of what I just read, right? Like it's so complicated. There's so much jargon that the non-scientists cannot really totally fully understand. And I feel like even the scientists sometimes, people who have a science background don't totally get what research articles are saying. So I guess my purpose of writing these articles is to get everybody on the same wavelength. And I think science is often seen as, the subject that you have to have such a specialty in. And if you're not as special, like if you don't have an expertise in, for example, neuro, then you can't talk about cardio or something like that. But I'm trying to eliminate this facade of, if you're a non-scientist, or if you're like a lit major or an English major and you're coming in and you're reading this article, you will leave understanding fully of what this particular scientist did. And I think that's really, underestimated, because we want the world to engage in science, and we promote so much of the STEM courses, even within like elementary schools and middle schools and high schools. But whenever we have to write about it, suddenly we're using such complex language, so to the point where the general public that may not be knowledgeable about it doesn't know what just happened. So I think that technology and awareness of these cool science biotech topics are important for everybody to know about. And if it's written in a way that's understandable, simple, effective, and as focused as possible, you can actually reach a huge population, a huge audience, maybe even spark interest in people who may never have thought about it that way. And, especially today, rhetoric is so important. Our political kind of standing as a country has shown that we write everything. We write to our friends, our texts, our emails. But I think we're forgetting that science is also written, and it has to be written so it's understandable to everybody, and not just people who are, masters in their specific field.
All right. Yeah. Well, hey, Sophia, thanks a bunch for talking to us today. Really appreciate talking about the cool stuff going on in these various UT design and PhD kind of designs, projects, ideas, capstones, all that good stuff.
Biomedical innovations.
The biotech of the future. It's already here.
Exactly.
And they're called cup holders. But thank you very much
My
for
pleasure.
talking with us. And when we come back, we'll be talking to Christine Jacobs about some COVID statistics from the last year.
This is Amanda, and you're listening to the Mercury Morning News on Radio UTD. Coming up next, we're going to be playing Auburning by Matthew Devil. This is an ambient track, lots of actual nature sounds, if you listen to our interview with them back in fall of 2020. But for now, we're going to be listening to this track because we'll be interviewing Matthew Devil later in this show as part of our music news section. I hope you all enjoy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Mercury Morning News. Right now, we're sitting here with Christine Jacob, and we're about to talk about some COVID statistics, some breaking news, some really cool stuff. But first, don't forget, you can follow us at Radio UTD across the board, and at UTD Mercury across the social media board. Right now we will finally talk about some COVID statistics and some breaking news. If you didn't know, on Monday, the Monday after this episode releases, the 29th of March, all adults in Texas can start registering to get a vaccine. Woo! Woo! And I mean, a lot of people have already gotten the vaccine, right, Christine?
Yes, we have had some people on campus just get the vaccine. I spoke to some of the directors on campus that are kind of coordinating this whole university vaccine response. And when I spoke to them on March 5th. So this is a little bit before, I believe, the announcement that UTD was going to have a vaccination site. And now this new announcement that all adults will be able to get the vaccine. At that point, we had 830 people who have self-reported being vaccinated, and of those 830 people, 386 were reported to already have gotten their second dose. So I expect that those numbers will be way up even by this time that we're talking about it right now.
Right. And so talking about the vaccine, how many people have gotten COVID at all, generally, at UTD?
So as of March 5th, 6th, or 5th or 6th of 2021, over the past year since UTD has been counting the cases, we've had 676 total cases, and then we've had one death, which was a faculty member last fall.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm actually really sad about that one.
Yeah,
It was really, really sad to hear. That was my German teacher.
Oh.
Yeah. He's a fat rip. Rest in peace, Frau Nora Collins. And, well, here we are. So the vaccine's coming out. Do we know if Southwestern Medical Center will be able to will be able to register at the Southwestern Medical Center for vaccines?
I know that some people, especially if they're like patients, like I work in healthcare, and so I got my vaccination through UT Southwestern. And I know that they're partnering with UTD. I'm not sure if UTD students can directly register with Southwestern, but I do know that they're partnering together with the university.
Yeah, they were saying that UTD students could volunteer to work at the vaccination site to get a vaccine. For like, I think it was like a 4-hour slot, like signing up for 2-hour slots or one full 4-hour slot.
Just curious, looking at the statistics. I guess it's kind of obvious that it would happen, but there were more cases coming back from breaks or holidays. Is that you? I guess, is that just kind of expected? Is that what was going to happen?
Yeah, I think that's what the kind of directors, the administration kind of expected, just because people go home and they get on planes and all that kind of stuff. They did say they had the peaks, and even they said they had little peaks around like the Super Bowl, because people are coming together to celebrate and watch the Super Bowl together. So anytime that there were times when people tended to gather, they saw like a little spike in cases. The directors did say, though, that the spike in cases wasn't as bad as it could have been, especially like around like Thanksgiving or right after Thanksgiving, because we did not come back as a university back to campus. Like we had no on-campus classes immediately after Thanksgiving, so that probably saved us from a really high, Thanksgiving spike, Christmas-y spike.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it also mentioned in your article how there's been kind of a steady decline as of recent, which is good, along with, vaccines becoming more available.
Or can you tell us about some of the suggested factors that are causing that decline?
Mm-hmm. I think the university, I think this myself, I also think the admin agrees probably with this, is wearing a mask is obviously very much enforced on campus. A lot of our classes, a huge percentage of our classes are not in person. So that also helps with social distancing. So social distancing is definitely a factor. And then, as you said, the vaccines are also being put into place. And I think the daily health checks, I didn't realize this until I interviewed for this article, but they take the daily health checks very seriously. And so they do a lot of contact tracing based off of daily health checks and stuff, so they can alert people who may have been exposed to it and go ahead and go through their cleaning protocol. So I think all of those things kind of together have really helped us to keep those COVID numbers down.
In terms of the daily health checks, I know we did a story with, I think, Tyler, like last semester, about how a lot of students weren't filling them out. Has it kind of increased in terms of students being more active, or because it feels like, yes, they are taking them seriously and they're using them for contact tracing, but in terms of like student retention with filling them out, I feel like those numbers are still kind of low. Is there any, I guess, update on if they're going to try to further enforce it or anything?
Yeah, so for sure, the numbers for the daily health checks, like if we compare them to the faculty, about 80% of the faculty are completing their daily health checks, like, every day consistently. For students, that number is around 30 to 35%. So that's much lower. Obviously, it's like more than half of what's of a difference. So I think for them, they've seen that trend. One of the things that they've implemented is with the new in-person events that are starting to be approved by admin, they have started adding this daily health check QR code, where in order to participate in an on-campus event, you actually have to scan this QR code that verifies that you've been keeping up with your daily health check. And so when I talked to admin, they did say that they have seen an increase in the number of people completing the daily health check because of the implementation of these in-person events and the requirement that you have been completing the daily health check in order to attend some of these events. And I do think that recently I talked to some friends, and it looks like people who haven't been completing it recently did get an email reminder from the dean letting them know that they need to keep completing the daily health check every day, even though they might not even be coming to campus every day.
Yeah. And what is it? At this point, now that the vaccine is available to pretty much all students, unless you're the unlucky freshman that's still at 17, go-getter in life. But how much longer do you think it's relevant for us to have a daily health check? How much longer do we think?
Yeah, so I actually did ask this question, and understandably, this is a volatile situation, so they didn't want to speculate too much about the daily health check. They said for the time being, the daily health check is going to continue. In my personal opinion, I think it's something that's probably going to continue on to next semester. And I think, like, just looking at coursebook earlier today, it looks like there's going to be more and more classes on campus, but I have a feeling that we're going to be doing the daily health check for a little bit longer for sure.
All right. Do we think, I guess there is always, like, I guess the practical application of just saying, like, yeah, you know what? I feel sick. You know what? We're just gonna not come in today. Do you think it's like, do we think it's worth doing even after, like, let's say hypothetically, everybody that can get the vaccine in like a year or so gets the vaccine? Would it still be worth doing the daily health check? Does it still have like a useful purpose?
That's a good question. I think it depends a lot on like what actual COVID numbers are like. I mean, if we feel like COVID numbers are down and it's just become a thing like the flu and everyone's been vaccinated, then I don't know that there really would be any use in completing the daily health check. Because as you said, I guess people could, just use it to kind of dip instead of going to class. But I mean, I also do think on the other side of that, if we still see that the numbers are like they're going down, but they're not that low where COVID is still a factor, or maybe sometime next fall there's another mutation that brings up that number a little bit, then the kind of question kind of becomes like, we want to let a couple of students dip for a class that ultimately they are paying for in order to keep everyone else safe. So I think it's kind of just weighing between those two factors.
Thanks for sitting down with us, Christine. Good to talk to you.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up next is an interview that we conducted with Matthew Devil. This is only going to be the first part of the interview because the interview in its entirety is about 20-30-ish minutes. So it's a nice little sneak peek for y'all as part of our music news section for this week. I hope y'all enjoy.
Yeah, I started doing, on Friday nights, I started doing these kind of live improvisational performances where I got my loop station right here and I have a synthesizer and I just try and come up with stuff on the fly, and it's been mostly successful. I've kind of widened my setup a little bit, so I have more tools at my disposal, and I'm learning a lot from it, and it's honestly getting better every week. I think every new chance I get, I'm figuring out a new way to make it more engaging and flow well. And just working in the Twitch environment, it's very different than doing something like a virtual concert where I just have something planned out. So yeah, it's a really cool environment. I'm enjoying existing in it.
Yeah, it's been so fun to watch your streams. Like, granted, I haven't gotten to see like every single one, but it seems you're always experimenting with like a new thing or making X transparent or showing different kind of visuals. And yeah, there's a lot of
the visual element is the part that I want to explore more, because right now I just have a couple webcams and my screen capture, but I want to see if I can figure out some sort of custom visuals to make it even more engaging, because right now I'm focusing more on the audio because I want it to be something that is not necessarily like, because a lot of people on Twitch do just kind of ambient music streams where it's something you can just have on in the background. I really like that kind of application of it, so that's my first priority in terms of making it a worthwhile experience, just having something that you can put on and just kind of zone out to. But yeah, I really want to explore the visual aspect more. I'm not really sure what kind of tools are available to me to do that, but every week I'm trying something different. So I'll find something that I like and settle on it. But yeah, it's been fun to experiment for sure.
Can you, for the listeners, viewers that haven't gone to see any of your streams before, you want to talk about a few of those visuals?
Yeah, I mean, right now, basically what I've been doing is just kind of having both of my webcams active, and then I just chroma key out a certain color and then fill it with something else. So I have my main setup right now is I just have one camera pointing down at my instruments and then one at my face, and then I have I take out some of the color, and then in place of that I put a window of like chat, because a lot of streamers like to have their chat on the screen, which I think is pretty good. It helps with viewer engagement and stuff like that. Yeah, sometimes I just have like a monitor play footage, like gameplay footage of something really obscure, just something that's visually interesting, just in case people happen to be looking at the screen. But again, I'm mostly focusing on how it sounds. So yeah, just as long as there's something there, it's good enough for me for now. But yeah, I'm gonna try new stuff as I keep going.
Nice, yeah, because like it seems like to be changing each time, which is good because it's like a new, it's a new experience for the audience.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, exactly. For sure, like your music is like the forefront of what you're trying to share. It's just kind of additional elements for the experience because of the, Twitch is a streaming platform.
Yeah, and it's cool. It's a cool environment because it gives me like pretty much 100% control over what you see and hear. so I can tweak any element to fit my specific goals. But yeah, the performance streams are the ones where I want to really experiment with the visuals. But I've also started doing these Tuesday morning streams where I just bring the viewer into my digital audio workstation. We could just kind of look at my process, and I just make a random song or a beat or something. So the visuals there are more obvious. You just kind of want to see my computer screen. But yeah, it's fun either way. Just to either try and perform with more of an emphasis on the live element, and then the other stream helps with just kind of collaborating with my chat, just kind of coming up with ideas, bouncing ideas back and forth, and coming up with stuff that I can record, and you can actually see what it's like to make a song on your own. Because that's an element of music production a lot of people don't often get a chance to be super like face to face with. So I think that's really cool. And I had one this morning that people seem to enjoy it. So it was great.
Yeah, I've gone to one of those Tuesday ones, the ones with the Stardust Cruiser.
Yeah, that was the one that you named. That was really fun. That was a great track.
It was magical. They just kind of it was literally like watching you work, but like it was kind of collaborative, and people got to like kind of talk to each other in the chat, and
yeah,
it was a good time. And that's
just creates a nice like little sort of I mean, we've been saying the word environment over and over. It's just like we've created a little room for ourselves to just chill and watch something just kind of come alive. And it's a little bit different than like if you're just watching me perform. That's cool because like pretty much all the attention is directed towards me and what I'm doing. But if you see the music being created on screen, it brings it a little closer to the audience, so we can kind of watch it happen together and kind of work on it together a little bit. I mean, I guess it's still me making the stuff, but you get a little more
a personal element.
Yeah, you get a closer look into like what I'm actually using to make it with, and it makes it a little bit more tangible, I think. So it's really fun, and it gives me an opportunity to kind of converse more with the people watching instead of just standing in front of them playing something.
Yeah, I like the vibes of both kind of different streams you've got going on right now. And I think you've done a few gaming streams at times too.
I'm trying to fill in the time because the biggest Twitch always tries to emphasize like the best way to grow your audience is to just be online as much as you can. So and because I'm like during this sort of elongated pandemic time, there's not much else that I'm doing. So anytime I'm not streaming, I'm either just creating on my own or just playing games and stuff. So sometimes if I feel up to being on screen again, I'll just kind of let the audience come in and experience me playing a game or doing whatever. I try to leave my leave no window closed, like all possibilities. Like if there's anything that I have an idea for putting on the stream, then I'll do it because it's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like, your base is music, but I think it's shown with Twitch how you are like a cool, rad content creator. And it's Twitch experimenting with that.
Yeah, Twitch really gives you a great opportunity to just kind of explore new avenues of just entertainment and interaction with an audience. And since I've started streaming, I've also become a very active Twitch user. Like I've found a lot of wonderful streams that I watch regularly and interact with, and it's kind of fun seeing both sides of that coin, and it gives me a better insight into how I can curate my own streams for the viewer because I have experience as a viewer and what exactly I want to see.
And that was the beginning of our interview with Matthew Devil. If you'd like to listen to the interview in its entirety, a transcript will be out on the blog soon, as well as a video version of this interview will be available to watch on our YouTube channel at Radio UTD. I hope y'all enjoyed, and we are going to end out the show with another track by Matthew Devil. This song is called Peel Back Nothing to Reveal Nothing. Hope y'all enjoy, and I hope you have a good Mercury morning.
doesn't mean a thing. That away, the light beneath the trees, it doesn't mean a thing. Out of human reach, it doesn't mean a thing. Nicotine, only 1 in 23. It doesn't mean a thing. Doesn't mean a thing. Misery, pour out an empty reed. It doesn't mean a thing. Misery, pour out an empty reed. It doesn't mean a thing.